Hi guys, welcome back to our podcast, Books Don't Review Themselves. I'm Jessica.
And I'm Kim.
And today we are going to be reviewing A Stranger on the Beach by Michele Campbell. We are going to do something a little bit different this time. We have found that we tend to start talking about the book and then kind of in the middle of our discussion, we're like, oh yeah, the book's about.
Yeah.
So we're going to read the synopsis that we find. So it looks like the synopsis we took from Amazon. So we're just going to read that so you at least have a little bit of a background of what the book is about. So this book is 352 pages and it came out July 23rd of this year. Caroline Stark's beach house was supposed to be her crowning achievement, a lavish, expensive space to showcase what she thought was her perfect family. But after a very public fight with her husband, she realizes things may not be as perfect as they seem. Her husband is lying to her, the money is disappearing, and there's a stranger on the beach outside her house. As Caroline's marriage and her carefully constructed lifestyle begin to collapse around her, she turns to Aiden, the stranger, for comfort and revenge. After a brief and desperate fling that means nothing to Caroline and everything to him, Aiden's infatuation with Caroline, her family, and her house become more and more destructive. But who is manipulating whom in this deadly game of obsession and control? Who will take the blame when someone ends up dead? And what is Caroline hiding?
Dun, dun, dun. Yes.
I guess kind of want to start by explaining how this book came up. So Kim and I will sit down, we schedule out our podcast in advance, we talk about what books we want to read, and we also each have kind of our personal books that we want to read and review and whatnot. So she had sent me her review on this book. It was a personal book that she was reading, and I read the review and I'm like, this sounds like something I would like. So I requested it on NetGalley and I got it. Then we kind of started talking about it and we're like, well, let's do a podcast about it.
We wanted to get it out on the day
the day before.
The day before it was released. But Wisconsin got hit by these huge storms and
9 tornadoes,
Yeah.
legitimately 9 tornadoes. Kim had a tree fall and take out
part of our porch in the garage.
Yep, and then I had several trees, big trees that literally uprooted from the ground that trapped me
In your driveway.
Yep, the only place I could get out was driving through the back of my yard, luckily.
Yeah. So needless to say, it was not.
It's a little delayed.
Yes, but we enjoyed it, so we wanted to make sure that we got it
right
out.
So which one should start?
I will say I enjoyed the fact that we've read many thrillers and we've done some podcasts about some thrillers and we will do more thrillers because we seem to like them.
Right.
And as I had said before in a previous one, it seems to be a trend, between different people, 3, 4, 5, 6 different people.
Right.
And sometimes I get confused because I don't always read the subject or the title of the chapter. But this one was super easy, and I really enjoyed that. So thank you, Michele Campbell, for doing it. You had a man's perspective and a woman's perspective. Right. So you just kind of went back and forth. So that, to me, was wonderful. That was a breath of fresh air.
Yes. And the thing that I enjoyed with her doing that and the way she did it was you would get Aiden's perspective on a situation, and almost instantly the next chapter was Caroline's perception of the same incident. So you would read his perception, or hers, whichever came first, then the others, and you would sit there and think, who's lying? Somebody's lying. Because there were so many times where Aiden's perception was in love and infatuated, and Caroline
sweet.
Yes, and then Caroline's perception would be very
he's batshit crazy and he's obsessed with me and he's gonna kill me.
Right. Yes, and so you didn't really know who to believe, and so I enjoyed that. I enjoyed almost having to guess because, like I said, when I first started reading the book, we were driving. And so I was a chapter in and I was like, ooh. And my husband's like, what? And I told him, I said, I think the husband is going to hire a hit on the wife and have her murdered.
And the husband is Jason.
Jason, yep. And he's like, Then 2 more chapters in, I'm like, never mind. I think maybe she's hiring someone to murder him. And then it was never mind. And yeah, it was, she did a really good job of making you second guess yourself and what you felt throughout the entire book, I felt like. And I didn't see it coming. You said you saw
I did.
the
I
ending,
saw
the twist.
Yes, early on. I think that just, once again, just coming to watching so many of these type of movies and reading so many type of books, that nothing really shocks me anymore. Whichever, if I ever find an author that does, I will probably stalk you and become like your next door neighbor, just so I can like bask in your presence, you know, because I would love that. I would love to be shocked by a book.
And I think that's getting harder and harder.
It is.
Just with the society we live in and the copious amounts of books and whatever, it's just getting harder to write something that's like so fucked up that you're like, holy shit, I didn't see that coming.
Exactly.
I didn't see it coming. So I saw some aspects of it coming, but
and
not
even
the whole
though
picture.
I saw it coming, I still enjoyed it, because what I enjoyed was reading from chapter to chapter, trying to figure out when this person was talking about something, what lies they were.
Right.
And because like both of them were lying at various points.
Right.
Some more than others, and obviously one person more than the other person.
Right.
But to try to figure out what exactly, I really enjoyed that. And even though I did see the twist coming on later on, it was still enjoyable.
Right. I always say that if you're reading a thriller or a psychological thriller, if you don't feel like you need Xanax or something to get through the book, or you don't get a little anxiety, it's really not that good of a thriller. Because there were parts where it wasn't the story, or it wasn't that it was so unheard of, like, oh God, the storyline is just like, I can't believe it. It's the fact that the way it was written, you would almost develop a relationship with one, and you'd be like, okay.
You start feeling for it.
Yeah. And then it'd be totally wrong. And you'd be like, what the fuck? Like, I was just manipulated. You know, and it's kind of ironic because when you're reading the book, there's manipulation going on.
Yes.
And so as I was reading it, for me to feel manipulated and reading the book, I kind of felt insulted. So I was angry. And I like made a post about it.
I didn't see it. What did you write?
It was something about...
about throwing the book?
And how like reading relaxes me. And then it was like crying, throwing the book, and like angry, and then I'm happy. And then it was like, whispers to myself, like, this book's so good.
See, what's funny is, for me, like, thrillers don't usually make me feel that way. It's always romance books. Which
really?
I will cut a bitch. I have no problem. I am not a huge fan of stupid people.
Which just surprises me.
I know.
Romance does that.
But I cry at anything when it comes to romance. I will be like, oh dear God, it's horrible. I don't know what it... Another side note, I'll get back to the romance in a second. We used to be wedding DJs. And these would be people's weddings. I've never met them before. I will never see them again. I cried at every single one of their weddings. And it's just, it's
love does something to you.
It's
as
something.
wicked and black
as my heart is. I know. So
you're like the Grinch.
I am. Okay, there's two sides of me. I think it is because I do read so much horror and thrillers that I think every person is lying and they are not to be trusted.
And I think that's a lot of people nowadays. Like, nobody trusts really anybody.
No.
And for good reason.
Yes. But then when I read romance, I'm like, there is hope in the world. And my dark little heart can shine a little bit today.
Well, and I think that, like, you know, we were talking about how we want to do something for Halloween. We want to do like 31 days of horror or something. But we also want to do something for Christmas. And it's like, there's a big difference in your feeling in October.
Halloween and Christmas. And every year I try to participate. I do participate in a 31 days of horror, watching a horror movie every day. And I have not succeeded in finishing it yet. So maybe this year will be the year I do that. That's always really fun. But I don't think us reading 31 books would be doable.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be what we're doing.
Yes.
But somehow we want to incorporate 31 days of horror and thriller and just make the whole month as Halloween-y as we can. I don't know. I don't know what else to say that isn't going to be a spoiler.
Yeah, I mean, we could do spoilers if we wanted. So at this point, if you haven't read the book yet or if you don't want to be spoiled, thanks for watching. Hopefully you like, subscribe, and come back for the next episode. But now we're going to do some spoilers. So
I am so angry at Caroline. I feel personally victimized.
Oh.
And I thought she was a bitch.
Yes. The C word popped into my head, and yeah.
You can say it.
That's too much. That's too much. If the people were here right face to face, I could say it, but it feels different on the camera,
interwebs,
on the interwebs. Yes.
But the thing is, given this day and age, with Me Too,
movement,
and sexual assault and sexual discrimination, you don't want to be the person that's like, oh, she's lying or blah, blah, blah. You don't want to be that person. However, it does happen. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. The way probably the first half of the book was written, it was very much that you were like, Caroline is being victimized significantly. And like, what the hell is she going to do? Like, what's her way out? Because she is kind of in a shitty situation where, what the fuck do you do?
Exactly.
You know, and then at one point she goes to the police and they're like, we can't really help you because you don't have any concrete
evidence or
that
proof.
We need. And so that's really shitty too. But then, and then that's what she did really good was that you almost felt for Caroline and you were like, oh, okay, like this really sucks. And you felt bad for her. And then the tables turn.
That's where it gets good.
Yeah. And then, we had talked about that this is very much like Gone Girl in the sense where it's very different when you have a female that's being vindictive and is pissed off than when you have a male that is predominantly being a dick. It's just more psychological when a female does it, and I enjoy that. And I don't know if that's because I'm a female or just because it's a little more twisted, because it's like realistically anybody can kill anybody.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And that neither here nor there, but like the way
to manipulate a person, to
Right.
mind fuck them.
Right.
And yeah.
Right. And the way that this book was written, she did, this was a long time coming. And the thing, too, that I really enjoyed was that you were manipulating a complete stranger. You know what I mean? Like, it's easy enough to manipulate, like, your spouse or something because you're with them all the time. You know them and all that stuff. But to have this well-drawn-out plan to manipulate a stranger, you're fucking crazy.
See, now, part of me, like, this is why I love escape rooms and stuff like this, because, you have a puzzle that you have to solve. And I think there was a movie called The Game with, I can't think of his name, not Richard Gere. Maybe it was Richard Gere. I don't know, whatever. But I want someone to put me in a game like that. Like, I want to be safe where I know I'm not going to die. But yet I want, like, someone to...
Some sense of urgency.
Some sense of urgency and to, like, think that...
To feel threatened?
Exactly. Is that, like, twisted? But I want to see, like, if I can overcome it. You know, if I can be smarter to...
Like, how you would handle...
Yeah.
Because, and I think that's fair, because a lot of people look at a situation, they're like, oh, I wouldn't do that, or I would have been way cooler about it, or whatever, but you don't
know until you're in that situation.
And...
hopefully I'm never in that situation.
Like in real life.
But like if
you could pay for it.
Exactly. And I knew no one would die, then, that would be fine.
There was the part in the end where they're in court, Aiden's there, and Caroline talks to Aiden. And she tries to manipulate him again. And I'm like, you fucking bitch. Like, let it go. On the same token, part of me was like, does she have feelings for him?
Yeah.
Or is she just being manipulative again? So.
And then I have to touch on her daughter, too. Because to me, this part of the book just never felt finished. Her daughter, Hannah, is a college student. And Aiden goes to talk to Hannah in her dorm. And
with the intent of protecting Hannah from what he thought was going to be
happening.
Yeah.
But Hannah, like, invites him in. They start drinking, don't they? And she seems... you don't know for sure because
they never really go into a whole lot of detail.
Exactly.
But basically, he meets her at a coffee shop, and then she invites him to his dorm. He has this whole story of why he's there.
That part of the book just didn't feel finished to me.
I felt like Hannah's presence in the book.
I feel like maybe the author put it in there because, women and their children, you feel differently for them in that regard. So maybe it's just like one more layer.
Right. And probably the relationship with Lynn.
Yeah, which is her sister, which is
Hannah's aunt.
Yeah.
I don't know. That kind of irked me because the time frame that this book is written in is present day. And it was like, why the fuck would you have a stranger come to your dorm room? Exactly. And again, I'm 27. I'll be 28 this year, so I'm not old, but I'm not.
You're not 18.
But it's like, first of all, it starts with Caroline. It's like, why are you bringing some guy back to your fucking house, fucking him? And then it was like, bye, thinking that, first of all, you're 20 years older than he is. You're a millionaire, or at least you appear to be a millionaire. What part of that did you, not think through?
And if I was Aiden, at that point, I mean, he's young, too, so he, and obviously he doesn't read thrillers at all. But if I was Aiden, I would have been like, what is this bitch up to, Well,
and I think at that point, maybe we would have thought that, but I think Aiden probably looked at it as like, what do I have to lose?
Yeah. She's a conquest and sex. Great.
Yeah.
And then the way that Michele wrote it, he seemed like a psycho. He seemed like he became obsessed with her and started stalking her. And
yes. And there were a lot of portions. There was a part where he was talking about them showering together after sex. And then her version of that, and in his version of that, she says that she wants him to kill her husband because all their money's gone. After reading a couple chapters of the back and forth, you're like, I don't.
Was he imagining that? Is that a voice in his head?
Did she really say that? Or because there was so much of that she did Michele did a really good job of making you second guess. Even though it was Aiden talking, you're like, okay, but did that really happen? I thought she did a phenomenal job with that.
All right, so I give it 4 out of 5 stars. And
I would give it 4 out of 5 stars as well. I think it's a really good book, and I plan on reading more of Michele Campbell's books. So
I'll let you read them first, and if they're really good, maybe a movie will come out sometime.
And that was the other thing I forgot to mention is that I think it was Instagram or something. I thought she had posted that someone had bought the rights for this book because it seems like the book's doing really, really well. So that would be something that would be really fun is to see the movie because I think that this is going to be like another Gone Girl. Yeah. Which I really enjoyed. So,
well, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your doctor and your dentist, whomever. Down below, we have a link for our merchandise store if you want to help support the show.
Yeah. And comment. Let us know if there's anything you guys want us to review. And if you have any suggestions for our 31 Days of Horror, just keep in mind we're not reading
31 books.
31 books.
Even if we both, if I did 16 and you did 15, that's a lot of books.
That's still too much.
Yeah.
I would have to quit my job.
Yeah.
So